What's going on, everybody? This is Chris Noggle, and welcome back to the show. Today, I'm joined by a friend, somebody I've known for a while, somebody that I admire, Gary Boomershine. And, here what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about something all of you suffer from, and all of you put yourself in a bad situation. You don't even know you do it. It's called the entrepreneur blues. You want to be self-employed. You want your own company. You want to do all this great stuff. Well, I want to know one thing. Why? Why do you want to be self-employed? Why do you want to own your own business? Because you know what most people do when they start their own business, and Gary will talk about this, they create a trap. They create a job that they get stuck in, a job that acts like slavery because you can't get out of it because you literally created your own worst enemy in the journey trying to create freedom, which you did the exact opposite. You didn't create freedom at all. You created a trap where you are stuck working in your business day in and day out. And most entrepreneurs I meet, they won't ever tell you this, but they hate it. They're sick of their life. They're sick of having to be a slave to the business they created. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about freedom. We're going to talk about you doing one simple thing that changes that trajectory and gets you out of that. Gary, welcome back to the show.
Chris, it's a pleasure. Lots changed since the last time you and I did one of these, but I'm super excited. I love your audience, and I love this topic, and hopefully I can deliver some amazing value that hopefully changes a handful of lives. If on mistakes, things that I've learned that I love to pass on to other people.
Well, one of the cool things I like about your story, and I'd like you to tell my audience a little bit about kind of your journey and how you got where you're at, because you're wildly successful now, but it wasn't always that way. And, along this journey, you did what so many other entrepreneurs do. You come from a real estate family, but you also got trapped in your own little world that you created for yourself, and you had to find a way out. So let's talk a little bit about that, Gary. Tell everybody where you began and how you arrived where you're at. And you just made some major changes in your life, in your business, and you did it for a unique way, for a unique reason. So let's get to that point.
Yeah, for sure. My journey, I'm 52. I've got two daughters and been married as of a month ago, 27 years. It's amazing how fast things go. But my journey, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I grew up in a super entrepreneurial family, multiple generations. My parents owned a real estate brokerage, and we had a fleet of rental properties. And so 3 weeks after turning 18, when a lot of people are learning how to drive and having fun, I was a licensed agent. I became a licensed agent in 1987 and worked the family business. I paid for college by cold calling and door knocking, and we had a huge mail printing presses in our house. That's a long story, but I'd help my dad in the garage, and we'd print out letters and postcards to mail to all of his real estate farms. Sound familiar? And what was interesting, I learned a lot. But I decided it was right during the whole technology boom, Silicon Valley. And so I went off and I had another mentor. This is going to be key. I think everything that has shaped my life has come from other people. Have really good mentors in your life. But this is a senior vice president of Macy's, who ran all of Macy's from Chicago West, a family friend. And he said, Gary, the future is computers. He goes, here's what you should do. Get some sort of computer engineering degree, go work for corporate America, and then go into sales, technology sales. That was 1987. So I did that. I'm a computer engineer from UC Davis. I was one of two people out of 25,000 students that got hired to the largest technology management and technology consulting firm in the world. It's now called Accenture, with Anderson Consulting. And I was there for 6 years on a partner track. Amazing experience. Absolutely loved it. Working 90-hour weeks, traveling all over the world, and never saw the light of day because you're always in a building. And then after doing that, I decided to jump into the Silicon Valley. It was right around the dot-com boom. And I got taken on. I was employee number 12 of a company that went public, raised a huge amount of money. It was the who's who on the cover of Fortune magazine. I on paper, when we went public, it was worth $7.5 million. I found out about this magical thing called AMT. It's the tax gain. And so, a lot of paper money actually disappeared really fast. I ended up doing 4 technology startups, and then it was 2004. So 1987, graduated 91. 2004, my wife and I had been married 5 years, actually 9 years. We had a 4-year-old and a 2-month-old, and we said, we're done. This is 2004. And I do not recommend this to anybody, by the way. This is not the smart move. This is like Napoleon, burning up the ships. My wife and I both quit our corporate jobs. We had 2 babies. We had a $700,000 mortgage in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we decided to go real estate investing full time. I don't know, it sounds familiar, but anyway, it was an amazing journey. This is one thing interesting. I gave myself 90 days. I felt like it was the movie Pearl Harbor. You ever see Pearl Harbor where they're going to fly off an aircraft carrier and you had one shot? So 90 days. The first 30 days, I was going to find my deals. The second 30 days, I was going to figure out what to do with the deals. And the third 30 days, in 90 days, I was going to unload them and try to make some profit. And the very first property, I ended up getting 4 deals, by the way, closed 3 of them. The first one, we made 181 grand, and just a total divine, how it happened. I screwed up absolutely everything on the deal. It was 5 hours away. The seller actually offered me $10,000 to take the house. It's a wonderful story. I've shared this in front of lots of live audiences, but I screwed up everything. I had to rehab the house twice. I did it all myself. I hired a methamphetamine contractor. I had to carry a gun with me in the house because he was breaking in at night. I mean, crazy. But anyway, that one deal changed my life and the trajectory. That was in 2004. And it's been an amazing journey. I've bought and sold a ton of properties. I got very much lost on the way. And I want to share those lessons with your audience, because real estate, everybody over the years, myself included, every one of us gets into this real estate for financial freedom and a life. And it absolutely can offer you that and me that. But what happens is a lot of people end up getting lost on the way, and they remanifest the slavery system that we've been indoctrinated into, and they create themselves a job, a really bad job, because you're now the boss. And we try to do everything ourselves, and we do not follow the best practices and what we've been told. We try to do everything ourselves, and it's a trap. So for probably, I made a lot of money, but I was working 90-hour weeks again. And it wasn't really until about 2012, 2013, where the light bulb really came on. And I said, I can't do this, right? It's the Einstein thing. Doing the same thing over and over again and trying to get a different result doesn't work. So this business absolutely gives us huge amounts of financial freedom. But here's the thing. You have to know the why and the what, not the how. And a lot of people like, why real estate? And what do you want real estate to do for you? And you want to build a business that works for you. Because if you don't, you're focused on how to wholesale or how to fix and flip or how to rehab or whatever it is.
And Gary, let me talk about those two, wholesaling and flipping. We've both done them, and we've done them at high levels, and we've watched a lot of people do them. That is a transactional business, which means the moment you stop doing it, the printing press shuts off. No more money comes in, and then you have to restart it. So that is the worst kind of business you can create. But so many people start there because that's the big things they hear about. And because, hey, let's face it, there's a lot of money to be made there. But when you're chasing dollars without chasing freedom or understanding the why, as you say, like it's for nothing, because the second you stop, it's game over.
Yeah. And here's the thing. There are 3 buckets, and so many people, they forget this, but there are 3 buckets in real estate. There's the cash now, there's cash flow, and then there's cash later. Cash now is transactional. It means you do some work and you make some money. That's wholesaling. That's flipping. That's rehabbing. Anything where you do some work, send out some postcards, and then you buy a property, you sell a property. That works, but that's cash now, and that's nothing more than a job, a job. I call that just over broke. cash flow is where you're going to become wealthy. Okay. And then cash later is going to be how you become rich. It's the Robert Kiyosaki model. So many people get into this business and they've been told the lie, and it's an absolute lie, because it's like, oh, you can make money out of thin air, right? Sitting in the comfort of your home, in real estate, with no money and no credit, no any of this stuff. And you need operating capital. They don't tell you you do need operating capital. You can buy properties without any money of your own. But a lot of people say, oh, I don't have any money and any resources, and so I'm going to get into wholesaling first, and I'm going to make some money. And then I'm going to get into some fix and flip, and then I'm going to get into some rentals. Then I'm going to get into apartments once I have success. And then finally, I'm going to get into lending. I'll tell you, I've seen very, very few people actually make that transition. And here's the shocking truth. 90% of all people that get into real estate investing in their first year fail. They're out. And 95% fail within 5 years. And I think, and by the way, that's a national statistic, and it's not just real estate. Why? Because they do it wrong. They're not actually, they're usually being told what to do, but they don't do it. So this business in real estate is an absolute, product everywhere. We have product. I just picked up 3 properties, and I'm going to walk through a few of them in the last 4 weeks. And so products available everywhere. But the problem is that people try to do everything themselves, and they don't. And sometimes they'll get into wholesaling, and then they'll go to a seminar or mastermind, and they'll see, oh, this guy did 200 flips this year. He did 200 wholesale. And so now it's like they want to build a wholesale business. But they don't realize that guy that said, I just did 200 deals, the volume doesn't matter. It's what do you have in your bank account, and how much time and energy did you have to use in order to make that happen? And I'll tell you, most of those big wholesalers, they have very little. If you look behind the Wizard of Oz curtain, there's not much money there, and they work 90 hours, and they probably have a disaster at home. So here's the hard truth. This business is about passive income. It is the focus. Don't focus on, oh, I have to have 2 million or 10 million in the bank. You only need about $10, $15, $20,000, ultimately $25,000 of passive mailbox money, and you're done. You're set. And it doesn't take a high volume. I am not a high volume guy. I actually unloaded everything, completely debt free, and I'm doing it for fun. I don't work very many hours, but everybody is 7 houses, single family houses away from completely being retired and having plenty of cash flow for the rest of your life. And it's not about the 100 deals. So you want cash now. That's basically just pays the bills. You want cash flow. That comes from rental properties and using leverage, and then lending, and then cash later is long-term ownership. And that's, having rental properties where, and appreciation. There's an acronym around it. We can cover some of that stuff. But you want to focus on, why are you in real estate? How many hours do you want to be doing it? What kind of life you want? And then you build your business around that. And for me, it's, I like to fish. I like to hunt. I like to, especially in this COVID world in California, we just unloaded and left the San Francisco Bay Area. We're up in the mountains by Yosemite, and I'm out mountain biking, and I bought 2 of these mountain bike motorcycles, and that's what I like to do in my free time. And I wasn't always there. You have to be very deliberate and come up with a plan, and then execute that plan, and don't try to reinvent the wheel.
You know what? Like, too many people get into whatever business, but we'll just stick to real estate because they want to make a lot of money. And because they know that the path and the wealthy use real estate to get a lot of money. There's no secret there, but they get into something before they even know their destination. They don't even know what they're working for. At first, sometimes it's, I want a bigger house, or I want X amount of dollars, or I want the Lamborghini. And once they get that, they don't know what the next step is, where it's like you were saying, if you just paint the picture of what you want that freedom to look like, that perfect day to look like, you can reverse engineer that and figure out what does it take to make that happen. Maybe it doesn't take 200, wholesale deals. I mean, how many times have we heard wholesalers brag about, oh, we did 300 deals, we made $10 million. I'm sitting there saying, so what? How much did you keep? Like, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. It never, ever matters how much money you make. Your company could do $10 billion. How much did you get to keep? That's what matters, Gary. And I love that you talked about that. And you've created systems. And actually, you got a new book, The Freedom Code, that talks all about that. So let's just talk about the path for that, because I've got this marching band coming back. So I'm going to go on mute here while you explain that.
Yeah. So, let's see. I'm going to start with something that I think is really important that most people never even hear. What is a true real estate investor? And I'm going to take the Warren Buffett definition, because most people call themselves real estate investors and they're not. Okay. So a true real estate investor is somebody that has money. They invest it in a physical asset, and the asset class is real estate. And then they hold it for the long haul, and they take all the advantages of real estate. And there's an acronym for it. And that's a true real estate investor. It's extremely passive. Most people are in the flipping business. They're in wholesaling or rehabbing or whatever. That's not real estate investing. That's real estate business ownership. So you're running a business. It just happens that it's a real estate business. Every business needs a CEO. So if you're a CEO and you're doing $10 an hour work, you're going to have a $10 bank account. You need to know the value of your time as the CEO. And if you think about a pizza company, imagine if you were going to go and invest and basically build a pizza delivery pizza company. Are you going to buy that company, and then are you going to make the pizzas, take the orders, and go out there in the kitchen and do all the stuff that you do, and then jump in the car, put on your delivery hat, and go deliver the pizza to the door? No, you're going to actually use leverage and leverage other people, right? So lower cost. So you need to understand what the value of your time is. It's a very simple mathematical formula. I actually will give everybody the tools on how to do this. But you want to say, how much money do you want in your bank at the end of the year? And let's say it's $500,000 net. Now, I'm not talking about you did $10 million or $50 million of transactions. I'm talking about how much you personally have in your bank account. So if it's $500,000, and it's how many hours do you want to work a week doing that? 20 hours, 30, 40? Let's say it's 40 hours a week. So the value of your time is $250 an hour. That's assuming you work full time and you took 2 weeks of vacation. Okay? I'll give everybody a little simple tool. You can plug some numbers in. It'll tell you what the value of your time is. Everyone on the call, I would say the value of their time is going to be somewhere between $250 and $1,000 an hour.
I like to think my time is priceless, but that's just me.
Priceless. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the thing is, if you're doing anything in your business that's not $250 to $1,000 an hour work, you're not going to end up where you want to be. So real estate is a finance game, and it's a game of leverage. And you have to do this day one. And leverage is not, a lot of people understand, I'm going to leverage other people's money, OPM. But more importantly is you got to leverage other people's time, other people's experiences, and other people's resources. And you have to do it day one. A lot of people get in the trap saying, I'm going to do it myself first to learn and to make some money, then I'm going to hire some people. No, you have to do it day one, because that's where most people fail. So when I got started, I knew that direct mail was something that I knew. I wanted to go find off-market deals. I wanted to go direct to the seller because I knew there were no deal flow on the MLS, right, with the realtors. It was all jacked up on price. And so I ended up leveraging a small team overseas to actually do it for me. And that all started in 2004 and 2005. And that business, a decade later, actually even longer than that, is now realestateinvestor.com. So realestateinvestor.com is a software and a team that actually does all the direct mail and the entire phone and all the follow-up for people, thousands of people around the country. I think we've done 90 million pieces of direct mail, and I've got a huge phone team. When the leads come in, they get followed up, and then I have a phone team that actually does all the talking to the sellers and then passes those over to us and our clients to go close them. So that's a concept of leverage, where a lot of people, if they're getting into real estate, it's like, oh, I got to go find some deals. And so they'll go do some marketing and they do it themselves, right? And then they'll try to hire a virtual assistant in the Philippines, and they forget that, oh, I can hire somebody for $5 or $6 an hour. But what you forget is you can't just hire a magic unicorn overseas and they're going to magically do everything for you. You still have to train them, right? You got to manage them, and then you got to keep them busy. So that's why most people, they do all this stuff and then they fail, and then they say, oh, I'm just going to do it myself. And it's this vicious circle. So for me today, I'm extremely deliberate in my time. And I coach people around, how many hours do you really want to do this? For me, I only want to work in my business 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. That's what, and by the way, it's multiple businesses. So my 3 hours, I have a rule of what I call 5-10-3. And 5 is when I wake up, 10 o'clock is when I start my work day, and then 3 hours is how I'm going to spend my time, those 3 hours as a CEO in my businesses. And it's usually directing and leveraging other resources to go do stuff for me so I can do the $1,000 to $5,000 an hour work. That makes sense. I know I covered a lot, but.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And, I think a lot of people, well, it's just upbringing, we're pretty much lied to our whole lives. We're taught to go to school, and at school, they teach us how to be a good employee. They basically teach us through school and through college how to trade hours for dollars. And then we basically look at the industry we're looking at, and we put a monetary value per hour of work we actually give, whether we're actually giving it our all or not. We just say, all right, it's this many hours. The average person works 40 hours a week, and that's how much money I'm going to make. And when you do that equation, you always limit how much money you can make and how many people's lives you can touch and how much you can actually do to change, I don't want to just say the world, but change an industry, change your life, your family's life, and create that legacy. So I think what the wealthy do different, and this, is they don't trade, just like you don't trade hours for dollars. The hours you put in are for a very distinct amount of time at a very distinct task. And it's not so much that you're looking to trade that hour for a dollar. You're trading an hour for what that hour can produce. And then you have a team of people that go do that. But you pretty much are looking at your time as being priceless, because it is. And when people go ahead.
I was going to say, let me give an example. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, Gary, you're a huge successful guy and you do all these deals. And I'm not a big numbers guy. I am, again, all about how do I get the most leverage off of what I have, my resources, at the least amount of time. So let me give the last 4 weeks of what I ended up doing. I have a very, very small team. I've got a gal. Love this gal. She's down in Southern California, and she ended up having a business that was in events, got crushed in COVID, and she's got real estate experience, but I brought her on as another sales acquisition person for a small amount of money. I pay her a monthly amount, and I did about $5,000 worth of direct mail in this area that's 3 hours from San Francisco. And there's going to be a bunch of lessons for people in this. But $5,000, I dropped a bunch of direct mail. I had my phone team with realestateinvestor.com do all the follow-up and the text messages and the voice drops and all the dialing for dollars, kissing frogs, and out popped about 90 reasonable leads, all right? Of which those got sent over to my sales gal. Patty is her name. So Patty then takes them a step further, and she took those 90 sellers that put up their hand, and there's a lot of good, bad, and ugly. There are people that are angry, pissed off, blah, 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 blah. What am I doing? I'm out fishing, and I'm out skiing and mountain biking. I don't deal with any of that. So after a while, Patty starts saying, hey, I got a bunch of appointments, and here's the deal, and here's the numbers, does all the work. Very little money invested on my part, right, as a business owner. And I ended up going and looking at a bunch of properties, and I locked down 3. All right. So I'm sure I'm going to get another 5 off of the original marketing. But I got 3 deals. So one deal I picked up, it needs a lot of work. I don't want to do the work. It had a bad tenant in it. So I picked this property up, $145,000 all cash. All right. Because it had a bad tenant. Property, I'm going to flip it for about $200,000 without doing a single thing. I'll have some trash removed out of the property. So I'll make 50 grand on that property. I have another property that we picked up that's beautiful. It's turnkey, and we're turning that into an Airbnb. Airbnb with a nice 8.5% cash on cash return. And I have my daughter and my wife, and they're working together because we're building a family economy. I have a daughter that graduated from college, and she wants to learn this whole real estate thing. And so we've just turned this thing into an operational Airbnb that's ready to go for Christmas. And it's awesome, right by a ski resort. The third property was this wonderful woman, 75 years old, house is free and clear. I picked it up about $45,000, $50,000 under market. He's giving me 90% owner financing at 2% interest.
Wait, did you just say 2%?
2%. Now, normally I get 0 interest on these owner financing deals. That's a long story. A lot of people say you can't do it. I do it, and I've done it for years. But I am taking a property. I picked it up for $325,000. I gave her $35,000 in cash down, and my payments are $800 a month. If you run the math, you're like 2% interest on a 30-year loan, Gary, is $1,100. Well, I set it up for the first 3 years. I don't want to get into mechanics, but I asked Sharon, wonderful lady, Sharon, how much money, what do you need? And I said, if I could get you to net on your property about pretty close to what you were netting on that rental property, would that work for you for a while? And she said, yes. So $800 a month for the first 3 years, then it goes to $1,000 a month for the next 7 years, and then I'll pay her $1,200 a month. Now, if you run the math, this is a rental property that is a $2,100 to $2,300 a month rental property. So I'll cash flow that maybe $1,200 a month in net cash flow, plus the appreciation and all the other benefits that I get. That, if you run the math, that's about a 50% annualized rate of return on my money. So, and how many properties? I didn't do any of the work. I went and looked at, I think I looked at 14 houses to close 3, and thousands of phone interactions and talking with sellers and follow-up that I never dealt with. Most real estate investors will do all the work, and then they burn out, and then they say the direct mail and the phone doesn't work and their VAs suck. You just want to have all of that automated. You want to leverage by writing a check. Marketing and sales is a return on investment. I know I spend this amount of money, I'm going to find enough deals, and I'm going to make this amount of money. And it's how many of those do I want to do? And I wanted 3. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Then the remainder of my time, so those are the assets that I bought on real estate. I still like single family. I am looking for another storage facility, especially in California, given everybody's exiting the state.
I wonder why.
State, right? And then the remainder of my time, business-wise, on real estate was lending. And I do a lot of first position, low loan-to-value lending. I get 8.5% is pretty much my rate right now. A lot of people are like, oh my God, you can get so much more. But here's the thing. I pretty much like no risk in this market. I like pretty much a no-lose situation. So I'll lend $400,000 backed by $2 million of real estate, where if the market completely goes to crash, in hell in a handbasket, and there's an earthquake, and the property goes into rubble, would I still be happy having the property? And that's how I'm investing right now on lending.
Yeah, it's I love that
That's my
because
business.
back a long time ago, I was at a real estate event, and this is early on in our career of real estate. And I remember hearing two guys get up in front, and the one of them said, "The ultimate in real estate is being the bank." And I didn't quite know what that meant. I think, okay, being the bank. I have to flip a bunch of houses, make millions of dollars, then I can be the bank. That was my path. And that's exactly what I allowed that path to be. 267 flips that we did. Lots of gray hair, lots of like headaches. Just flipping houses is not fun. It is a lot of work with a lot of things that are out of your control, but that's just what I believed it was. Had I known from day one that being your own bank and doing this didn't require the millions of dollars, I could have got off to a much quicker start. But again, lack of knowledge, lack of seeking knowledge put me on that path. And that path lasted about 5 years. It's cool because it ended in a pilot show with HGTV and all sorts of fun stuff. But it landed me at the end of it all, knowing what being your own bank was, and actually the power of owning nothing but controlling everything the way that you just said. And then you get to be in the bank, you get to call your terms. You're 8.5, I'm 12. You're lending a little bit less than I am willing to lend because of risk tolerances, but I'm charging more for the money, and I'm lending to only people through my community, the Private Money Club, that are, in my opinion, very educated, very experienced real estate investors, because we get to create that community and that process. So I love it. But where do people make that transition? When in their life cycle or their real estate journey do they actually get off this I call it the financial hamster wheel, really, of owning the business that's transactional, making a bunch of money, but spending a bunch to get there. And at the end of the day, things aren't good at home because you're working your tail off and there just is no money left in the bank and you just feel trapped. So how do people make that transition? I mean, I know you wrote a book about this, but like, is there more to it than just learning that one part where you have to actually look for the exit off that train?
Couple things. One is, and I want to give everybody, because I love your listeners, Chris, and I know you and I are in leadership boardroom, and and we love teaching other people how to get off this hamster wheel and not make the same mistakes everybody else, including ourselves, have made. I'm releasing the Freedom Code. I'd love to give it to every one of your listeners. It's going to be out here shortly. It's been on my bucket list. It's a faith-based book. I don't make any qualms about that. And the people who have read it have said, Gary, you've got to get this out because it's a disruptor. I want it as a disruptor in our industry. I do talk about the underbelly of the seminar business, but I try to, I think seminars are great. I learn from education, but there are a lot of it's like real estate has 8 doors. 1 or 2, you'll make life change, and 6 of them, it could be financial ruin. And so I walk through exactly what you're asking of how to get super crystal clear on your big why and figuring and having the plan first, and then here's how to go execute it. Here's the thing on the real estate, you have to do this day one, because if you don't do it day one, you're going to go for 5, 10, 15 years like we did, right? Until you're in a desperation mode. You're either broke and bankrupt and going into another industry or dead, or you're going to come to a life-changing experience where you got to get it right, like we did, right? And I wanted to change all that. Real estate, it is a finance game, and you want to think like the banker day one. When I look at property, I don't bring my wife as an example to the property because you want to fall in love with the cash flow, not with the property. I couldn't care less about property. It's a widget. It's just it could be shoes. I don't really care. So I go out and I'm looking at it from a banking perspective. You have to understand, because what are the biggest buildings on every street corner in the world? Who runs and controls the world? It's the banks, right? How often do you see a wholesaler with a big building, a skyscraper or a rehabber? You don't, right? So it's the hedge fund. So you want to understand and think like a bank. So I'm looking at a property, and I'm always looking about how am I going to leverage this property and ultimately turn it into lending. So most of the properties, if I flip a property, I don't want the money sitting in a bank. That's probably, especially these days, with what I think is a global reset coming. Won't go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, I can say that. Yeah. By 2022, it's all over, folks. So you better get your house in order and your money in order. So, Gary, you didn't have to say it. That's all I talk about. And the people want to ignore it, and good. Ignore it, because you're creating opportunities for me and Gary. Because if you want to ignore what's coming and not plan, I'll be there to scoop up whatever you have that you are forced to sell, pennies on the dollar, and it will be an opportunity for me and Gary, and a complete tragic event for you. So go ahead, folks. Don't listen. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. Even my in-laws used to think I was a massive conspiracy theorist. Now they're like, oh my gosh, you're a conspiracy realist. It's like, hey, I don't villainize the banking system. I want to understand it, and I want to follow and do what they do. Can't print money, right? Because you'll go to jail for the rest of your life. But how can you actually do what the banks do legally? And it starts with understanding the banking system and then thinking like a banker. So the money is energy. So I want it working for me. There's velocity of money. So every time I get that money that comes into my bank account, I want it out quick, because I don't have any anticipation. It's losing money. And by the way, it could disappear because it's not ours anyway. It's all created out of debt. So I want that working. So money comes in, and I'm immediately calling up my broker, my hard money broker, to find me more deal flow. I'm doing that probably once, twice a week, sending out messages. Hey, if you got any more deal flow, I got some more money to put out. I'm looking at real estate because here's the deal with real estate from my perspective. I've been talking about this a long time. Real estate is a 7-year cycle. Actually, it's been like that for 100 years. It just happens this is the longest cycle by plan that we've ever had. We're at year 13. And the cycles always have a boogeyman event. Not natural supply and demand. It ends, and the cycle ends on what I call a boogeyman event. And that's an artificial, man-made type of event, like 9/11. I'm not going to go down this, but some sort of an event. 9/11, most of the wars, the oil embargo, you just go back. It's been 7 years, almost to the day, the Shemitah, as they call it. So I'm anticipating that again. Just happens that this one is called COVID worldwide. And so real estate, I think, especially in some of these areas, is probably going to take a pretty big hit, right? It always has. It'll take a hit by design, especially like I'm in California, you're in New York. I think a lot of these metropolitans where we've seen astronomical increases. So if I'm buying property, I want to make sure that I can have as much free and clear property as I possibly can, or you have operating capital and reserves to control that property and keep it going. Because what I think is going to happen, like all other historical times in real estate, is we're going to see a small blip. A lot of people are going to get wiped out, followed by massive inflation and appreciation. And we want to hold or control real estate because those are real assets. And if you look at the 4 largest companies that are funds that control every major Fortune 1000 worldwide, whether it's Pfizer, Moderna, whether it's Facebook, they're all the same 4: BlackRock, State Street, Berkshire Hathaway, and Vanguard. And what are they doing? They are loading up on property. They are loading up on loans. They are preparing. And the rest of us sheeple are out there worried around, like running around like little people. So you want to get into real estate and control the real estate. I think rental properties, as many free and clear that you can get, along with lending. And you don't have to have many. I think a $250,000 property in 10 years, for those that can actually hold it and keep it, could be a $25 million property. I'm not talking about, I think, appreciation in 10 years, because they're printing money like they never have. This is a broken system now. So I'm loading up on properties. I'm also doing it for fun, right? And getting the family involved and picking up some Airbnbs because I want to control the property. I think everybody on this call, even if it's one, everybody should be focused. Don't go for the 100, go for the 1. Get a property in the next 3 to 6 to 9 months. If you're fairly new, you can partner. That's where making money out of thin air. You can partner with somebody. You can borrow some money at a higher rate for 6 months or 9 months or a year and then refinance out of it. Or, get some other, I like using the family economy. We're all 1 or 2 degrees away from people that have got a lot of resources. A lot of people want their money in real estate right now. They just don't want to do the work. So that's where we come in.
I love it. And I think that's a very, very good piece of advice that everybody should heed the warning or jump on and start doing that, because I think just too many people, I mean, like, you look at what's going on out there with crypto and how many people are plowing money into stocks. It just blows my mind. I'm an ex-Wall Street guy. I mean, that's the world I come from. And like, the advisors, and no disrespect to any financial advisors, but what the fuck are you doing out there, guys? Like, and gals, if you're an advisor, do your job. And your job is to help your clients not lose what you've helped them build. But yet, because of greed and because you're listening to the wrong people, your consultants telling you to plow money in the markets, it's going to keep going. As they keep printing money, the market will never slow down. It's never going to be like it used to be. You're wrong. The cycles will continue with or without the government printing. It just prolongs it. And by prolonging it, they just make it way worse. And if you just study history, which most financial advisors, when they get their Series 7, they learn a little bit about history in that book. They learn about the inverse relationships to bonds and interest rates. They should know what's coming. The writing's been on the wall. It's been on the wall since, heck, you could go back to .com and say they wrote the book and now they're following the book. Or you could literally just pick up from 2008 and say, now they're really following the book that was written. Folks, this situation isn't going to get better. It's going to get drastically worse. And you have to decide, do you want to be on what side of that line in the sand? Do you want to be on the side where you lose it all and somebody else gains it all? Or do you want to be on the side where you gain it all and somebody else loses? That's really your choice. And I hate to play that card, but you know what it really is? You have to understand, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful, because that's how you'll get wealthy. And that's how you'll keep your wealth. It's not, everybody right now is on the high on the hog because they have money and they've made money. Too few people, Gary, know how to keep that money. And that is where the secret is. And that secret lies with one very simple thing: mimic banks, learn how banking works and be your own bank and start getting on that train. Because once you understand banking, you understand how to move your money, protect your money, and keep your money. And that's pretty much the game. That's the name of the game.
And you don't have to have millions of dollars sitting in a bank account in order to do it. You can do it. You can actually, banks don't use any of their money. By federal law, the banks cannot offer credit and they cannot lend depositors money. Banks are servicers. They're actually leveraging other people's money as well. And so people don't understand that. It's called hypothecation. And that's the whole secret of banking. And so if this is a finance game, it's a game of leverage. And most people think that they have to have $1 million, $2 million. And so they're running really hard wholesaling and all this other stuff. No, you can do it right now. You don't have to have a lot of resources and you don't have to do it in high volume. You can actually, you don't have to have 10 houses. Go get one, right? Buy it right. Every deal that I have done, it's all about the money is really made at the beginning on buying it right and leveraging other resources. I don't do anything on any of these properties. Why? Because I'm already on looking at the new one and making sure that I'm $1,000 to $10,000 at an hour. You don't go in and start, painting. You hire a painter to actually paint it for you. If you can't, then borrow and bring in some partners and let them come up with the money to pay for all that. So get out of the business of doing it all yourself, because it's a trap. I want to do one thing for everybody. Chris, I've got a website that I've set up for you guys.
Great.
I have right the weekend of COVID, I think you were there. I was in front of 400 people as the last speaker on how to build a business that works for you. And I walked through my journey, but I have all kinds of tools. And I have that recording and all the tools there. You'll get a free copy of my book, The Freedom Code, when it comes out here in another month and a half. And all kinds of other stuff of how to use realestateinvestor.com if you need somebody to find deal flow for you. And that website, I'll give you the place to go right now, is realestateinvestor.com/growth. GROWTH, realestateinvestor.com/growth. And you get on the list and we'll give all that stuff. You're not going to be marketed to. It's just my kind of thanks to everybody. And I just love feedback from you. If it helps you and it gets you a little further on your journey to financial freedom, I love the feedback, and our team loves it, because there are a lot of us right now, especially in this world of COVID, and people are being displaced by their jobs because they don't really agree with having to do things like take the jab, right? And trying to figure out, how to survive and thrive in this economy. And we can if you do it right. And it starts with knowledge, and then it's, knowledge, you implement that knowledge and follow people that are doing it, and don't deviate from the plan. And I always say, especially for people that are fairly new, education without implementation is just very expensive entertainment. So you got to take the education, and then you have to implement and be very deliberate on how you do that, especially right now, because just real estate, every one of us lending on having our own infinite banking system, using the vehicles that we have, and owning real estate or controlling real estate is where we all need to be. And you can do it on a small scale. I don't like the big scale because I don't like working very hard. And some people do. They want to build a huge, I call it a little bit of an ego thing, but some people really want to have, huge $10 billion fund or what have you. For me, I want a small fund. I call it my own private family office, right? I leverage my mom, I'm at her house right now. She's turning 88, and she's one of her CPA says that her biggest returns come from me, because she's got money and she wants to lend it, and she piggybacks off of my deals. And my in-laws, the same thing. They sold all their rental properties, and and now they come to me saying, "Hey, I got another $500,000 to lend out. Do you have any deal flow?"
Oh, I love it. I love that your 88-year-old mother she's being the bank. She is practicing become your own banker, and you're helping her move her money the same way banks move money day in and day out with very low risk. But you know what? Too many people out there, they say, oh, that private lending thing, that's high risk. No, what you're doing is high risk. You simply don't understand how to be a private lender and control your risk. And, and some people need to learn that. And that's what we teach. And that's what the Private Money Club does. It gives that platform where people can actually be a lender or a borrower with systems and processes that make sure, no matter what, that you are doing things the right way to minimize that amount of risk that you're taking by being your own banker. And Gary, everything you guys teach, everything you do, everything you stand for, and everything your journey tells leads right to that one place. And now you're giving this entire audience your book, The Freedom Code. So folks, click the link, because I don't give a shit who you are or what you're doing. It's not the knowledge that matters. It's the application of that knowledge. So take action, get that book, read that book, and take action on it. Instead of going out there and going to all these events, watching all these podcasts, and each one you pick up a piece of candy on each. And what do? Nothing. You just sit there and say you got a whole bunch of useless knowledge that you never do anything with, and your life never changes, and you never help your mother become her own banker. Shame on you. You should start teaching them how to be their own bank. And Gary, I really appreciate you being on the show today, sharing your knowledge and giving your book away, man. It was a real honor.
Always a pleasure, Chris. And love your audience too. So look forward to connecting and seeing you live again.
Heck yeah, man. Well, whether the world opens up or not, I'm going live. I'll be out there, and don't expect to see me in a mask. We'll see everybody next time. Thank you all for joining us for the Real Estate Money School. Gary, have a beautiful day, and we'll see everybody soon.